From Charlottesville to the Valley, Confederate monuments dominate the national debate. The president says they are pieces of history that need to be preserved. Others say they perpetuate a history of hate and need to go. Tonight, a closer look at what statues like this stand for and why so many people have taken a stance to have them removed. On Politics Unplugged. And good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. Well, it's been a week of violence, vandalism, and protest. Now, on the surface, it appears to be all about monuments and statues, but you dig a little deeper, and not a whole lot deeper, it's about race, equality, free speech, and hate. 152 years after the Civil War has ended, it has once again divided our nation. And joining us now to talk about all of this is Galindo-Elvira with the Anti-Defamation League and Jevin Hodge, who is the vice chairman of the Arizona Democratic Party. Thank you both of you very much for coming here today to talk about this important issue. Now this debate is really, it's about removing Confederate monuments. It really came to a head last weekend in Charlottesville when some people had converged down there. Some white nationalist groups converged to protest the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue. Now, obviously, it escalated from there. A woman was tragically killed by one of the people connected to one of those white nationalist groups. Tell us, what was your thoughts watching this play out over the weekend?
It's disgusting. It's horrible. There's no other way of putting it besides seeing the hatred, the bigotry, and the downright nastiness that's plaguing our world right now. This is hatred is the most disgusting disease that can plague our bodies, and we're seeing it through our country right now.
Yeah. Well, now, what changed? Why was this such a flashpoint in the country, right?
Well, the reason that Charlottesville is so significant is because you had several different white supremacist groups come under one big tent, put aside some of their ideological differences, but still follow under one agenda, and the agenda is a four-letter word called hate.
And talk a little bit, too. I mean, a lot of talk has been about the monuments, what they represent. They say it's there to preserve history and whatnot. What's wrong with that argument? It seems like a lot of people would say if you start removing these monuments, then you're going to start forgetting history.
Exactly. And there are many points that invalidate this argument. One of which is that the Confederacy was founded upon the hatred for black lives. Period. This is a group of people that face their beliefs on torturing, raping, murdering, and victimizing a group of people, and preserving these monuments is only personifying those efforts and allowing an opportunity for the hate to plague our lands.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of symbolism in these types of statues.
Well, it's not just statues, which certainly this is a big argument happening not just here in Arizona, but across the country. But symbols in general, for example, when you saw the white supremacists marching on Charlottesville, they were carrying flags with swastikas. And at ADL, we've taken it upon ourselves to classify different hate symbols and what they mean. So it's important for the public to become educated about the symbols that they're seeing on TV.
So what about here in Arizona? You guys track these types of groups. Are we seeing a rise in this type of...
At ADL, we track and monitor white supremacist and extremist groups, and we see definitely a resurgence of different groups because there's a high level of recruitment going on. And it's not just the individuals that you see dressed in paramilitary attire, it's also the guys in khakis and polos that are signing up. And you only have to look at the images of Charlottesville to see that that's true.
Well, could that be intentional, too, part of the whole PR thing? Because if you look at the images there, obviously there were a lot of young men carrying those torches. This doesn't look like what a lot of people would think of as the typical, Klan member or something. They were young men with, that didn't fit that stereotype. Calculated, you think? Maybe to look like the kid next door?
100%. 100% calculated move. And what this does is it makes it feel and seem as if it's the everyday Joe Schmo. It's your neighbor. It's your friend. And they're out there and they're plaguing our communities. They're vilifying and victimizing people. And they're doing this to directly destroy everything that we built.
It's a rebranding effort. Calling themselves the alt-right. It's still white supremacy. So, new name, old hate.
All right. Now, so what are you guys seeing now? You said it's on the rise here in Arizona. How many groups?
See a resurgence.
And what do you think's behind that?
We don't enumerate groups because it's so fluid. It could be one guy in one house working on the internet. So what we do is we track activities and we track potential opportunities for participating in rallies or in marches or so forth. And then we also work on hate incidents that may occur closely with law enforcement. So it's a multi-level approach in how we work to shrink the space from these white supremacists.
And Jevin, get your response on, obviously, Democrat, Republican president, but he was saying, look, there's a lot of blame to be going at the left. What's your response to that?
No, there's no blame. And the reason being is because he's the one that's igniting and inspiring the hatred acts and providing that sense of hope for people to say that this is okay. And it's wrong.
And let's take a listen to that soundbite from the president from last week.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? I watched those very closely, much more closely than you people watched it. And you have... you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent.
Your reaction to that?
So this is not a right or left issue. This is a right or wrong issue. We believe that the president should, with extreme clarity, in this case we want extremity, we want clarity, to denounce white supremacists and to work on a plan to eliminate this type of hate in the United States. So again, you know, new name, old hate.
All right, and within the context of all of this that is happening, we do see that the president is going to be coming back here to Phoenix, his first visit to the Valley, to the state, since becoming president. Are you at all worried?
Yeah, very worried. Very worried because he brings with him a cloud of darkness. He brings with him a cloud of hatred, and that follows him. And here in Arizona, it's an oasis of opportunity. We're at the forefront of fighting the battles of hatred. We're at the forefront of committing ourselves to being champions of change, and to combat that with negative energy is just wrong. And the president's bringing that here, and we have to be prepared to stand against it.
Now, the president you saw in that clip also brought up the idea of the alt-left. Aren't there alt-left hate groups out there as well?
No. No, there aren't any alt-left hate groups, or however you want to victimize them or villainize them. What he's trying to do is he's trying to find a cover-up for the nonsense and the bigotry that he's spewing into the world.
Okay, and I want to get your reaction to the leadership of the governor here on this issue, particularly when it comes to the Confederate monuments. There are 6 of them throughout the state, one of them right at the Capitol within eyeshot of the governor's office, literally. He has said that he's not going to engage in this issue, that it should be left up to the public process. Is that leadership?
Well, what we would do is we would invite the governor to take a look at the implications of these monuments and what they represent in a new era of where we live in Arizona now. And if it is going to go through the public process, we hope that it'll be an open and fair process so that all sides can be heard. It's important. We live in a country where free speech is precious to us, but we want to ensure that we are uniting in a way that appreciates people of all diverse backgrounds and has a true meaning to all of us, that God enriches Arizona.
Dennis, I'll tell you true leadership. True leadership stands with Reginald Boulding. Representative Boulding has been fighting this fight since 2015. Individuals like Roy Tatum at the East Valley NAACP, the NAACP, Arizona Coalition for Change, is rallying behind and capitalizing on the positive energy that we have here.
But why isn't there then more of a groundswell, more of a grassroots effort then to go through that process, as the governor had mentioned, go through the committee process and put pressure on these boards and commissions to take these monuments down there?
There has been, right? But the governor and his office has been flat-footed on the issue. They haven't provided an outlet to have the conversation for us to move forward. Arizona Coalition for Change has rallied over 500 signatures for this proposal within 24 hours of launching it, for their petition to take down these monuments. The grassroots support is there.
Yeah. And we're also seeing some vandalism of these monuments. I mean, is that the right course of action as well? I mean, the people are kind of taking this in their own hands. We had the Jefferson Davis Highway Memorial that was literally tarred and feathered, and then you had the monument over at the Capitol that was spray painted white.
Right. People have a right to free speech, but not a right to destroy property. It should go through the process, a public process, to make the careful consideration on what should happen with the status of the monuments. Of course, at ADL, we want there to be a process that is respectful of all individuals, that respects history in the proper context, and really validates the need to appreciate all of our communities in Arizona.
All right, Mr. Hodge, I'll give you the final word on it.
I'll tell you this, Arizona is an oasis of opportunity. We have the energy here, and we're not going to stand and allow hatred to plague our communities. The people of Arizona are stronger than that, and we will prevail.
All right. Well, Thanks a lot for joining us. But we have to take a quick break here, and we have more here to come on Politics Unplugged. President Trump plans a visit to Arizona and lobs a Twitter bomb at Senator Jeff Flake. Still ahead, the president jumps into Arizona politics and says who he could like see in Congress instead. And some say he was key to Mr. Trump getting elected. Chief advisor and strategist Steve Bannon will have to watch the rest of his presidency from outside the White House. It's a phrase familiar to lots of people who have worked for Donald Trump. You're fired. Still ahead on Politics Unplugged.
Tuesday, all eyes on the Valley as President Trump comes to Phoenix. CBS 5 and 3 TV, the power of two with live team coverage of the President's rally and reaction. Live rally coverage starts Tuesday at 7, only on 3 TV.
More local news, now in prime time. Heather Moore, Jared Dillingham, and Chief Meteorologist Royal Norman. 3 TV News at 8, getting you up to speed on the day's top stories, starting this September, only on 3 TV.
We're Lerner and Rowe.
Sign here.
We sign so many checks, it seems like we're getting a new shipment of checkbooks every day. Oh, in a wreck, you need a check? You know who to call.
Lerner and Rowe is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
Need new floors? Empire Today makes getting beautiful new floors easy. Impossible? Let me show you. Empire brings hundreds of samples to you. We call it Shop at Home. The floors are high quality and come with great warranties. Plus, Empire handles the installation. You don't lift a finger, and the job's done right. Shop at Home, quality floors, professional installation. That's Empire Today.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
This is all that was left from my accident. And that wasn't even the worst part. Whew, the pain in my neck and back was gnarly.
Nobody plans to be in an accident, but unfortunately they happen. If you're suffering in pain, call Emergency Chiropractic. They will treat you with no deductibles, no co-pays, and no out-of-pocket costs.
And now, I feel great.
Emergency Chiropractic, the kind of care you want today.
Buckle up. What's the hardest part training to be an HVAC technician? Taking the first step and getting started. At RSI, 9 months of training is all it takes. Just 9 months to get the skills to start your HVACR career. Learn the skill for today's HVACR careers, including the growing field of solar energy technology. HVACR techs are in demand, so start now. Get trained in only 9 months. Call the Refrigeration School now.
Call 800-913-3388. 800-913-3388.
Dealing with the insurance company is like talking to a brick wall. Call us the moment you've been in a wreck, and we'll hammer the insurance company and get you every dollar you deserve. In a wreck, you need a check?
Call 977-1900.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged, and of course Confederate monuments and what to do with them. That's this week's hot topic. And joining us right now is Marcus Dellartino and Barry Dill to talk about all of this. And guys, thank you so much. Now, a lot of this debate is focused over back east in the Deep South. There are hundreds of these monuments, but of course there are half a dozen monuments here in Arizona, including one over at the state capitol. And Barry, what can you tell us about what you know from what you've been reading? Why is Arizona even have Confederate monuments? It happened long before Arizona was a state. There was a minor little skirmish down at Picacho Peak. So why are they here?
Well, from a historical perspective, the territory at the time was really divided. But,
Sure.
But I think the bigger question is after 150 years, what are they worth? Have we not grown past having to call and celebrate the people who tried to destroy this nation? Jefferson Davis, for example, was what's the value? What's the value other than just poke people in the eye? That's what these monuments are doing. It's just a guise in order to raise hell by the alt-right.
So, Marcus, what do you make about the argument that these preserve history, and if you take them down, you're destined to forget history?
The whole thing's somewhat laughable because nobody knew where these monuments were until this issue came up, and you had to go through and research it. You got to admit,
it's true.
Nobody knew where these were.
Sure.
And even for the people that are down at the Capitol who passed that statute 100 times, nobody knew what was on it.
Yeah, but the most recent one was put up in 2010. So it's like these have been coming, you know.
Did you know that before this issue? I mean, nobody in Arizona knows where these are until it got printed in the paper, and then they get vandalized, and that's all because you told people that they were there.
But what about this argument? Because you keep hearing this argument, and you heard the president make this argument. He's like, well, what's next? Are we going to get rid of statues to Jefferson, to Thomas Jefferson, to George Washington? And I've heard that argument a lot, and what I always think is, well, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, other people never took up arms against the country.
And they put themselves
but they did own slaves, and that's the issue.
That's where the equivalence. That's the only equivalence.
We're also going through this issue in Phoenix, right in the heart of the city, where the city council has now said to people, we're in charge of now naming your street. Whether you agree or not about what your name of your street is, we're going to change it. And I'm just, and the concern is that once you go down this row of allowing just 7 people to be the emperors of what street names are, you have to start looking at bigger streets. Because if you're going to change Robert E. Lee Street, you've got to change Indian School, which stretches for miles across Phoenix because the word Indian's in it.
And someone suggested that's probably a good idea.
But we're also, where we've got to come up with some parameters here where this ends. And to your point, that the other side of this issue is now Columbus statues have been vandalized today on the alt left. So it's happening everywhere. And frankly, it's.
Okay. Well, I want to get to this bite here from the governor, because a lot of civil rights leaders have described these as symbols of hate and even terror. And you know, the governor was asked. I was able to ask the governor last week, you know, whether he was going to engage in this process. Here, let's take a listen to what he had to say.
It's not my desire or mission to tear down any monuments or memorials. We have a public process for this. If the public wants to be engaged in this.
Look, he is saying it's their public process, which is true. He does not have the sole authority to take down these monuments. But as a governor, Barry, as somebody who has worked up in that office, who actually worked with the governor, who actually changed the name of something pretty significant here, we're talking about Piestewa Peak, governor has a lot of pull on these issues and could lead the way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I wish, but what I was about to say earlier before that cut is that this argument about the memorials is a false narrative. This is an opportunity for the white Nazi alt-right nationalists who were part of a coalition that joined up together with the Republican Party to elect this guy president. They're using this as an excuse. These monuments that some are offended by their monuments, and they're using it as a way to spread terror. And that's what the president didn't call out last week.
When you look at the history of the Republican Party, they've been a leader in the civil rights movement. So I get slightly offended when people say that we teamed up with the Republican Party. And by the way, once again, this president just stole the name Republican. He's actually a populist president. We've had this discussion 100 times. So it's not fair to continue, and it's happening almost on a daily basis.
But should the governor be taking more of a stand in leading in this issue?
Look, you guys want to bend the government rules when it benefits what you want. But, you know, but the fact of the matter is that there is a process in place, which you just pointed out with your previous guest, who said that they've actually not followed the process. The governor said, I'm happy to do what the process calls for, but I don't have that jurisdiction.
And how are you going to feel now as an Italian American when someone else wants to start taking away Columbus memorials? And
well, listen, let's not kid ourselves. It's already happened. It's already happened.
And that sort of thing. But I know, but if it were to be defaced, wouldn't you be offended if someone went up and used it as an example of promoting racism and?
But the statute. But listen, Columbus Day is already gone in the city of Phoenix. It's already been gone in many cities and replaced with a paid holiday for
talking about parameters. Where are the parameters?
All right.
By the way, this is a lighthearted version of our staff meetings.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna have to stop it right there this time, because that's all the time we have. But we do have more coming up here on Politics Unplugged. The president, well, he's not happy with Jeff Flake. Just ahead, what he had to say about the senator's opponent. And Mayor Greg Stanton speaks out against pardons in a presidential visit. President Trump gets the unwelcome act. Still ahead.
It's my summer vacation, but my work is never done. And what can I do for you?
Santa, I know it's the summer, but I want new flooring for Christmas, and I just don't know if I can wait.
Express Flooring is having their Christmas in the Summer sale, where you can save 68% on new flooring, get a lifetime warranty, and call today, say Merry Christmas, and receive an additional 10% off.
Oh, Santa!
Call Express Flooring.
Express Flooring is the best. Call 800-EXPRESS.
You're all set. You got Cox high-speed internet with new panoramic Wi-Fi, so you'll have blazing fast speeds all over your house.
We'll see about that. Wi-Fi never reaches all the way up here.
Get Cox high-speed internet starting at just $29.99 a month and ask about our new panoramic Wi-Fi.
Cool, right?
Get wall-to-wall fast. Cox high-speed internet starts at $29.99 a month. And ask about new panoramic Wi-Fi for blazing fast speeds all over.
No way it's fast down here.
You were right.
It's fast all over.
Yep.
Right?
Prepare to be blown away. Cox high-speed internet starts at just $29.99 a month. And ask about our new panoramic Wi-Fi for wall-to-wall fast.
Where'd you get the shorts?
The internet.
Nissan is the premier partner of the Heisman Trophy, and we surprised fans with this award-winning lineup.
Marcus Allen. Are you guys ready to go train with us? Let's go do it.
Then, they experienced Nissan's award-winning lineup.
That's incredible.
It's Nissan's bottom line model year-end event. Lease the Rogue family, starting at just $159 per month, or save up to $4,000 on the 2017 Rogue.
Will you take me to the Nissan dealership?
Before we blow up the dump, we blow out every mattress. Queen-size mattress sets $199. King-size sets $299. Twins $79. A year of mattresses is on hand. With only 3 days, we'll take anything we can get for Tempur-Pedic, Serta, iComfort, even handmade heirloom. A full 80% off. Free power adjustables. Free next day delivery. Free financing. 3 days to blow up the dump mattress store at 15 cents on the dollar.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. And we have lots more to talk about with our partners from First Strategic, Marcus Delortino and Barry Dill with us here today, and with the second segment with you guys. So thanks for sticking around here. Now, I want to start with Mayor Greg Stanton, who's made no secret. He really does not want Donald Trump to come to visit here. Now, he is planned and scheduled to be here on Tuesday at a rally at the Phoenix Convention Center. Now, he's not pleased with rumors that Mr. Trump may be trying to pardon Joe Arpaio. I wanted to play you a clip of what he had to tell me on Friday.
But then to come in Phoenix, and if he does it at a campaign rally, to politicize the pardon process, that would be even more wrong. And obviously, I'm very concerned about the reaction in our community. That's why I specifically said to the President of the United States, delay this visit. This is not the right time to come.
Marcus, we'll start with you. If he does come here and pardon Joe Arpaio, what's that message what's that going to send out to not only our community, our state, but to the country?
Well, from the country perspective, you know, and I know the mayor will fall over when I say this, I agree with him that the problem is you are politicizing the pardon process. And the pardon process, believe it or not, is a very structured process in the White House. And this fully politicizes it, and that's a bad road to go down. Democrat, Republican, I don't care. Locally, of course, it'll be a firecracker of an issue. And frankly, he hasn't even had, his lawyer is still filing appeals. The sentencing hasn't even happened. It's just a strange turn of events, a strange thing to do, frankly.
We actually happen to agree on this. I mean, specifically in light of what happened last week in Virginia, I'm really worried that this whole thing can get out of hand. And
I think there's a lot of worry about that. I think I know people.
And I think if I were advising the president, I would suggest that maybe we just ought to let this thing cool off a little bit and come back at a later date.
What I'm hearing from folks is that, you know, if he does come here and pardon the sheriff, that a lot of people, opponents of him who felt like wronged by the sheriff over these many years, will feel like they've had justice taken away from them.
Sure, but by the way, can we go back to the fact he announces that he's coming to Phoenix, and the first rumors that come out is, one, he's pardoning Joe, and two, he's endorsing another candidate against Jeff Flake.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
It was within seconds of him announcing. So, are these real concerns? Has that floated out of the White House, or is this just sort of political speculation and rumor that's come about, and people are getting attention?
I think in light of last week, I just think it's a real big match and a great big can of gasoline.
And frankly,
I'm really worried.
I'm not too sure. Back to a point I consistently make, these guys are off message every day. And I don't think it does anything to get them back on message. It doesn't talk about how we're going to pass repeal. Doesn't talk about how we're going to do a new tax package. A variety of issues, frankly.
Now let's go ahead and talk about that Jeff Flake issue, because he may be another politician here in Arizona who may not want to see the president actually come here. Now, the president had sent out a tweet where he kind of burned Trump. He praised his Flake's opponent, Kelly Ward, here, saying, "Great to see that Dr. Kelly Ward is running against Flake, Jeff Flake, who is weak on borders, crime, a non-factor in the Senate. He's toxic." Toxic. I mean, have you ever heard anything like this coming from a president attacking a member of his own party?
Not from a guy who supported him 98% of the time. That's the most bizarre thing.
And not for a guy who you want to have vote for your tax package, that you want to have vote for infrastructure, that you want to have vote for repeal. It's outrageous. It's completely outrageous.
It points to the fact the president's got thin skin, which everybody knows, but that thin skin is something that knocks him off message, and once again did it right here.
But I tell you what, though, I mean, it is Kelly Ward's best day in politics, though, getting a shout out from the President of the United States like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What's weird is, and my sources who had a conversation with the White House legal office were asking about Jeff DeWitt this week. Now, Jeff DeWitt has said, I'm not interested in running. But interesting that not all of the White House is on the same page. And I think it goes to the point of why General Kelly has got his job, is to get everybody on the same page quickly.
Yeah, I mean, because look, I just real quick, this kind of set the table a little bit more context on this. Kelly Ward is running a negative balance, account balance in her campaign as of her last June 30th report.
Got a lot of money to raise.
Now, she's getting $300,000 from a wealthy hedge fund manager in New York that was a big supporter of Donald Trump. And now she gets a shout-out from him on Twitter. I mean, this is going to completely change the dynamics of this race, right?
Well, it will change the dynamics of the race, but I think the wrong race. I think it'll change the dynamics for the general election and pretty much ensure that, should she decide to run, Kyrsten Sinema will be the next United States Senator from the state of Arizona.
All right. And so the shout-out, is that equivalent to an endorsement?
Everybody's asking that same question. I mean, I read it and I was asking the same thing. Knowing the way Trump has operated, it certainly would look that way.
Because I would argue this, like, no matter what happens, whether it's an endorsement or not, she could take that tweet with her and run it all the way through the Republican primary next year.
There's no doubt about it. But also, on Tuesday, when the president's here, where is she going to be in that room? And that will tell you what's going to happen during that speech.
All right, let's move on to the other big news coming out of the White House here. It looks like the chief strategist there, Steve Bannon, has been fired. Now, Mr. Bannon has been credited a lot for helping Mr. Trump actually pull off the most improbable of political victories last year, maybe the biggest political upset in the history of this country. What's this mean for this? What signal is this sending? What does this mean for the White House moving forward? We'll start with you, Marcus.
Or do you want me to?
Well, it says that General Kelly's in charge. No doubt about it. And he's tired of the games. And look, there's a disease that's been going on in the political consulting business for a few years here, and it's this ego. And it started with, what was the guy Lizardhead that worked for Clinton that married
James Carville?
James Carville that married Madeline. That's what he called himself. But it was all about how I am the most important guy because I got these guys elected. Frankly, Karl Rove was suspect to it. And you've seen this parade of political consultants that want to be more powerful and more important than their boss. Get you in trouble. That's what happens.
All right. Well, that is all the time we have tonight. But be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. Good night.